This is Seeing Red, now in our 15th season of bringing you the best in independent Red Bulls news and opinion. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Fishkin and Joe Goldstein.
After 3.5 weeks off, which is far too long for any team to be off in the middle of an MLS season, Seeing Red is back. I'm Mark Fishkin here with Daniel Rebain tonight. Daniel, how are you?
I'm doing fine, just hanging out. You said 3.5 weeks. I mean, it's felt like a lifetime off from Red Bull soccer. So I'm glad we're finally back. Made a couple stops to the second team. They've looked pretty good down there in Montclair. So just glad to be back with the first team this week.
Absolutely. And if you're watching us on YouTube, we ask you that you please like the show, but more importantly, mash that subscribe button. It's all about growing the audience. So if you would subscribe, that'd be great. Tonight on Seeing Red, we're going to roll over the remaining schedule for the Red Bulls once again. 9 matches left in the 2024 regular season, which is crazy. We're going to talk about Felipe Carballo and just how much Red Bull fans might see him over the end of the regular season. We'll give our preview for Charlotte FC. The Red Bulls heading there this weekend to take on CLT. And then our guest tonight is Callum Williams of MLS Season Pass. And then we've got some mailbag as well. So before we get into it, I think it's important to note to reface, and we showed this a little bit last week, but nevertheless, a look at exactly what's at stake. The Red Bulls entering this weekend's league play in 4th place in the East with 9 left to play. They're going to Charlotte this week. Then they have Philadelphia at home. Philadelphia is, I believe, down right now in the Leagues Cup semifinals at Columbus. They host a woeful Sporting KC side. They travel to Chicago, which is, I think, their biggest trip remaining on the schedule. And then Dax McCarty and Atlanta United coming into Red Bull Arena, and fans of this show obviously know that Dax McCarty, 4th most appearances in Red Bull's history. I think it's 3rd most appearances in league history. He was an absolute legend here from 2011 to 2016, winning 2 supporter shields and captaining the team. And he will hopefully get a warm welcome September 21st at Red Bull Arena. And then the Hudson Derby at home, a trip to Toronto, the reverse trip to Atlanta, and then finishing up on decision day with Columbus. I asked Mike Batista this last week, Dan, how many wins do you see here?
I mean, let's see. Charlotte, maybe. That's like a maybe, but Kansas City is a definite. Chicago, you probably say you should win that. You split maybe the 2 with Atlanta, so there's 3 there. NYC at home should be 4. You would say 5 at Toronto, but we've seen the last time we played Toronto, it was a struggle. So I'd say there's probably 5, maybe 6 there. I would take 5.
Yeah,
wins.
if the Red Bulls win 5 games, they are absolutely going to be contending for the second slot in the East, because while they don't play Cincinnati again, 15 more points will put them in really good stead, and I think will make this season, despite the lack of a forward signing over the secondary transfer window, a success. Now, I realize that may be a controversial statement, but, for this team to get past the first round of the playoffs, to get hot late, that's what it's all about in this league. And so hopefully they'll get that done. All right. Well, one player that is coming into the fold, of course, is Felipe Carballo, Uruguayan DP midfielder. He'll wear number 20 for New York. And he has 7 caps for the Uruguayan national team. But Dan, Uruguay has a very busy fall because there are 3 sets of World Cup 26 qualifiers that will take the Uruguayan national team to Venezuela, to Peru, to Colombia, to Brazil, and home games as well. And so the question begs to be asked, just where on the pecking order does Felipe Carballo sit? Not only are Red Bull fans wondering when he's going to get here anyway because of his visa, I think a massive challenge is he going to get called in, sir? What do you think?
From what I gather, I believe he'll just be a reserve kind of call up if injuries happen type of player. Like when you see the US drop like a 40-man roster, I think he's on that. But if you look at the center mid position, I mean there's a clear gap in between like players like Valverde and other
Mm-hmm.
that Uruguay calls up. Obviously, I believe his last cap was in 2021, 2022, around that range. So obviously he hasn't played for the national team in a couple of
For
years.
a little bit, yeah.
So while he is on that list, it's good that he is on that list for him personally. But I think Red Bull fans can kind of relax a bit, saying and look at he'll be with Red Bull for the time being, unless some major injuries happen for Uruguay.
Right. And so if you're a Red Bull fan, you've got to root for a healthy Uruguayan midfield, because to have him pulled away, and yes, again, as we've talked about, Ronald Donkor has stepped up a little bit and his play has improved. But when you're bringing in, even on loan for a calendar year, a player of Carballo's resume at the very least, you want to make sure that he's producing here. And to be fair, we don't know if Carballo is here. I know the Instagram hawks are out there watching his feed to catch any word of his arrival. We haven't had a chance to talk to Sandro Schwarz or the team. That'll come tomorrow as we record on Wednesday night. So watch our socials for that, and we should have an exclusive interview tomorrow as well. So for the first time in a month, it's time to preview a match. On Saturday, at 7:30 p.m., the Red Bulls return to action to take on, in North Carolina, Charlotte FC after a month-long break. Charlotte FC is having a pretty solid season. They would be a playoff team for the second straight year. 10, 8, and 7 for 37 points, 7th in the East. They've scored 30 and conceded only 27 goals in 25 games. That's the second fewest goals allowed per match in the league. Only Columbus is better in this stat. And when you consider their British coach, it might make a lot of sense. Charlotte 6-2-4 at home. They are leading the league in clean sheets, and they are 4th in yellow cards in the league, behind only TFC, DC United, and St. Louis. And so this is a type of team that plays defense first and almost always, although 30 goals in 25 games isn't so bad. They've had a number of changes since we last saw them back in May, and the first of which is the return of Polish international attacker Karol Swiderski, who came back from Verona and is ready to rock in Charlotte once again. Swiderski hasn't had a ton of success against New York in his time, but nevertheless, he may be the most dangerous striker in the club's short history. But former Red Bull Tim Ream, after 9 years of Fulham, has returned to MLS and the United States with Charlotte FC, and he's going to bring a lot of calm in the back. Yes, he is going to be playing on Charlotte's plastic pitch, but nevertheless, I think it's a big signing from Charlotte that wants to let their fans know that they understand what a quality former defender is all about, and a guy that will, I'm sure, have his hair blown back by the quality in the league since he left. My goodness. And then Spanish attacking midfielder Pep Biel came in on loan from Olympiacos. He came in right at the close of the transfer window. On the way out, Canadian international midfielder Scott Arfield went to Bolton. Senegalese defender Hamadi Diop was sent to Croatia to Kokariki. I butchered that. Apologies. And then Belgian midfielder Brecht Dejaguer signed for Kortrijk in, I believe that's in Norway, maybe, or maybe Czech. It's okay. When you think about Charlotte, again, it's Dean Smith. No, not that Dean Smith, but Dean Smith ball is made Charlotte a team that likes to dominate, not a team rather, that likes to play with the ball. They have a solid defense. They'll wait for the opposition to make a mistake and hit them on the break with their quality attackers. Liel Abada and Kerwin Vargas are the biggest threats in this team. Skill and ability to hit teams in transition is a big asset, and that's the way they want to play. And then reinforcements, as we talked about, they failed in their pursuit of Dutchman Calvin Stengs. They failed to get Atlanta United Miggy Almiron back from Newcastle into MLS. So they signed Pep Biel, who is a talented 10, both a solid player who's played in the Greek and Danish leagues. He unlikely to be involved on Saturday. But of course, it is Ream. While defense hasn't been an issue for them, he will help Charlotte concede fewer goals. And I would imagine the fact that he's been here for a couple of weeks means he is likely to start. Head to head, not a ton of history between these teams. And frankly, the Red Bulls have the better of just about all of it. This will be the 8th meeting between the team. The Red Bulls have only dropped 1 match in 7 to Charlotte. These teams played back on Memorial Day weekend, and it was a brace from Forsberg and an Andres Reyes goal gave New York a 3-0 win before conceding really late in the 96th minute to Ben Bender. The home team has never lost in this fixture. So keep that in mind, although the Red Bulls haven't dropped a result to Charlotte in their last 5 matches. And scoring wise, it's all about Elias Manuel, who has 6 goals, 6 of 16 all-time goals against Charlotte scored by the Brazilian. And then a quick look at what we might see. It's Christian Kalina, the Croatian 32-year-old with those 9 clean sheets in the back. A backline of Jere Uronen, a Finn, and there's Team Ream. Adilson Malanda has a goal, 22-year-old Frenchman. Nathan Byrne, a Brit, with an assist. The Sixes are Ashley Westwood, who's certainly a known quantity, 2 goals and 4 assists this year. 1-1 from Brant Bronico, who always plays the Red Bulls tight. Liel Abada from Israel, 4 goals and an assist. The number 10 should be, because we don't think Pep Biel is ready to go, Nikola Petrovic with a goal and assist, and Kerwin Vargas 5 and 2, and then Swiderski, who's just coming back, the 27-year-old Pole, with a goal and an assist. So we've got the Red Bulls. They're going to hopefully be healthy. We anticipate Emil Forsberg being ready to go. We will see on players like Peter Stroud and Cam Harper, who are coming off of long-term injuries. But my friend, what are your thoughts in general about what we'll see as we'll dust off the rust and play 90 minutes?
Yeah, as you brought up, it's going to be a tough game either way. Whoever's healthy, the home team has never lost this fixture. And obviously, we just saw the lineup there compared to what they were in May. Yeah, there's definitely some big additions for this team with Swiderski up top and Tim Ream in the back. I mean, with Manuel probably looking to start this game with his history against Charlotte, it's going to be a tough one. Maybe you try to attack Tim Ream's lack of pace in a 2 at the back system. With only one center back next to him, he's kind of struggled in that situation with his getting up in age. He's been successful at 3 at the back, but as you've shown there, Charlotte's going to run a normal 4-2-3-1. So maybe that's the target for Red Bull. Play some balls in behind for Manuel and try to see if they can get some more of that scoring touch from him. But other than that, yeah, I think it's just, try to get back into the thick of things, a couple of weeks off from training. I know some of the boys went on vacation to, re-energize themselves. So
well deserved.
9 games left. There's points to be had and try to get a better spot in the East. And I think it all starts down to Charlotte. I think if you could get a good positive result down there, that's just the start of things, and hopefully Sandro Schwartz and the boys pick up a result down there.
Charlotte has won only 1 of their last 7 contests, and similar to New York, Charlotte went out in the group stage of the Leagues Cup, losing 1-0 at Philly, and then going out and then winning a shootout against Cruz Azul, but it wasn't enough to get them through. They haven't played since the 31st of July, so they've had 3 weeks off as well. Swiderski did come in the team's most recent league game on July 20th and contributed a PK in the team's 2-2 draw at Austin. But nevertheless, I mean, it's hard to handicap this one, right? Because we don't know exactly who's going to be on the field. I mean, if a healthy Emil Forsberg and a healthy Lewis Morgan and a healthy Cam Harper and a hopefully informed Elias Manuel can play, if Ronald Donkor can step up, if Carballo isn't here, and we don't anticipate he's going to be here, perhaps New York can go ahead and, this is a game, as we talked about earlier, neither of these teams want to have the ball. The Red Bulls want to have the ball a little bit more. And the Red Bulls can control and probably will get a lot of the possession. In that game back in May, New York had a massive possession advantage and had chance after chance against Smith, who was bunkering, but it was finally Emil Forsberg who broke through with about 15 minutes from time, and then Charlotte kind of laid down. So for me, forgive me if I've said this before, the early goal is really going to be the massive difference. I think Manuel will see that crown and go nuts, see that teal blue, because that's what he does, and go to town. So I'm going to call it a 2-1 Red Bulls victory. How about you, sir?
I'll probably keep it with the history that the home team hasn't lost the game. So I'll say 2-2.
Another draw, just what New York needs to kick off this sprint. When we're back on Seeing Red, we're going to talk to Cal Williams for the first time on Seeing Red from MLS Season Pass. So keep it here. Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Red Bulls ready to get going after a 3.5-week layoff. And it's always a great time when someone's making their Seeing Red debut. Callum Williams has been been part of the sports commentary business for coming up on 15 years. He's had stops at both Sporting Kansas City as well as Minnesota United. And since MLS Season Pass was a thing, Callum Williams has been behind the mic calling games. He's called plenty of Red Bull games before, and he will call a couple of crucial contests down the stretch for New York. Callum Williams, welcome to Seeing Red, sir.
Mark, thank you very much for having me. It's great to finally make my Seeing Red debut. I've been waiting. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm really glad we get to talk about this team playing a game, because when you go out in the group stage of the Leagues Cup, which is difficult to do, you get a sustained vacation. So let's start here. Certainly this season has been a level better than we've seen since 2019. The team has some signature victories. They swept Cincinnati. They have a very wet win over Miami. And yet the team finds itself being in this second tier. I think a lot of fans were really hoping that the front office was not just going to backfill Frankie Amaya, but they were going to make some waves with the forward core. It didn't happen. I guess the overarching question for you, Cal, is this a good team?
It's a very good team, Mark. The question is it good enough? And I think that's the question on the tips of everybody's tongues at the moment, isn't it? And as you quite rightly said, myself and Callum and Carl have been fortunate enough to commentate on a slew of Red Bull games this year, and watching them play the way they do, not too much has changed. There have been details for sure. I think they're a little more efficient in the way they operate under Sandoval Schwarz. But I think that on paper, this is a top 4 team. I think on paper, with Schwarz in charge and making the little details that much more detailed, I think this is a top 4 team. This is a team that should host in the playoffs. This is a team that, in my opinion, when you host in the playoffs, you don't give yourself much room for mistakes. You don't give yourselves any excuses. So this, for me, is a very good team. I think, as you alluded to, obviously there was a need in the centre of midfield to replace Frankie Amaya. That, as far as we're aware, has been met, although we'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yep.
But the underlying issue with this team has been the case for several years now. Really, if you think about it, Mark, and you will know far better than I will, but it's really been an issue since Bradley Wright Phillips decided to part ways with the football club. And, Lewis Morgan has had glimpses, and he's had one or two campaigns where he's shown he's capable. But I don't think it's fair to put the goal scoring on his shoulders, because I don't think that's his natural game. I think he's actually, and I'm not suggesting that goal scorers are limited, but I think he has a lot more to his game. I think he's very creative as well. I think he's better suited in one of those, almost like a 10.5 position, being a creator who can score goals. So I think to label him and christen him with the responsibilities of goal scoring, I think is perhaps a bridge too far. So I think that's the underlying issue for Red Bull New York at the moment, is that they just need someone to simply put the ball in the back of the net on a regular basis. Again, we've seen individuals contribute. Elias Manuel is a pest. He's a problem, but he's wildly inconsistent. We've already spoken about Lewis Morgan. We've spoken about briefly about some of the goals that have come from midfield. But I think that's the overall issue, isn't it? Is the goal scoring and the lack thereof. And I must admit, Mark, I was very surprised that they didn't go for somebody in the window. Maybe they did go for somebody and it didn't happen. We don't know. But there were one or two suggestions flying around amongst the inner circles, but nothing happened at the end of the day. And I think that's the biggest disappointment, given how important these last few games are for Red Bull New York.
Yeah, it's a sprint for everyone now. I know the Leagues Cup hasn't finished yet, but the league gets going this weekend. Most teams have 9 games to play. It'll be a very intense stretch run for the Red Bulls for sure. As you mentioned, Elias Manuel loves to see that Charlotte crest, right? Has the only playoff hat trick in club history against Charlotte FC, and a bunch of goals other than that. But I don't think yes, going out and getting a forward, I think, is what everyone was hoping for. Certainly the rumors were about a 20-year-old second division Polish league player.
Sure.
If that's where the bar is, I think there's definitely a misalignment in terms of what the front office is thinking and what the fans actually want. And as you said, Cal, if Dante Van Zier is even a 10-goal scorer this season, if Corey Burke can come off the bench and contribute in any meaningful way, and if the players for New York that have missed significant, meaningful time, obviously Emil Forsberg, Peter Stroud looks like he is getting ready to come back and was integral. A player like Cam Harper, who had the wonderful banger against NYC back at Citi Field, with these three players back in the lineup, and if Carballo doesn't get selected for the Uruguayan national team, which would require him to miss significant number of games, and New York only has 9 to play. I mean, for me, the ceiling maybe isn't Miami, but this team could absolutely finish second in the East if everything aligns.
Yeah, absolutely. You won't find an argument from me there at all, Mark. And I think the one individual that you mentioned there is beyond significant, and that's Emil Forsberg. We don't know what's going on at the moment. How significant was the injury? How significant is what's going on in his personal life at the moment, to the reasons as to why the absence has been so long? But look, I mean, it's clear he's a game changer. It's clear that he can provide something out of nothing. And if he can get back into the fold, if he can get himself fit again, because he hasn't played for some time, it may take a little bit of time for him to reacclimatise. Then I think you've got half a chance. I think Red Bull have got an opportunity, but it's all good creating opportunities. You just have to put them away. And so, look, Dante Van Zier for me is he's a pest. He is someone that fits perfectly into the system. He gives everything that Red Bull needs except for scoring the goals. Yeah. And I don't know, because it's interesting. I've had this conversation with a few people actually, Mark, with regards to Dante Van Zier. I think it's a tremendous compliment to Major League Soccer and how far the league has come that he scored goals for fun in Belgium, legitimately for fun. Over 50 goals in 2.5 years. And the same can be said for Ugo Kuipers, by the way, at Chicago Fire, because it's a similar situation there with regards to him not being as consistent as well. But, Major League Soccer now, I think, can legitimately view itself as a top 10 league in the world. I firmly believe that, given everything that surrounds the league, play on the field, facilities, stadiums, everything. I think Major League Soccer is now a top 10 league in the world, which would suggest it's better than the likes of the Belgian Pro League. And so I know, because this is not a rare trend at all, we have seen across world football individuals being brought into superior leagues after succeeding at, quite frankly, inferior leagues.
Right.
But it's down to the individual to deliver in that superior league. And so for me, this is a prime example of that happening at the moment, where Dante Van Seer, I think, in this system, is better suited actually in a wide area. And I know that's not been encyclopedic, because numbers would suggest that, purely like his assist numbers, and I know a majority of them came in one game, but I think he's much more problematic in a wide area. But that's not why he was signed. He was signed to high press. He was signed to score goals and cause problems as a centre forward. And so, I was surprised as well that the suggestion was that Red Bull were going to go for this centre forward from the second tier in Poland. And it was obvious that was with the future in mind. But what took me by surprise, Mark, was really that they were not focused on the present. I understand focusing on the future, and if you see a wonder kid of some sort and you think they could give you something in the future, then go for it by all means. But it's easy to cast a mind towards disappointment, isn't it? Because it should be about now. It really should be about now, with the opportunity that's ahead of Red Bull New York.
Well, and when you're coming up on 3 decades without a knockout victory in a tournament, it's every year is now until you accomplish that feat. And flaming out in 2 penalty kick shootouts. I don't think Red Bull fans were terribly undone about the failure in the Leagues Cup in general. But when you have the leads in 2 penalty kick shootouts and you're unable to get across the line in either of them, it speaks to an organization that since 1996, when the match is on the line and when it matters most, while the players or the coaches certainly don't remain the same, the outcome does. And it's, the frustration only endures for so long. You're calling City in Chicago this weekend. It's a big game. If New York can fall out of the top 4 if the results go the wrong way. I'm curious. You're in Brooklyn. It's a soccer hotbed. Whether it's a hipster soccer hotbed or an actual soccer hotbed, I think it's up for debate. But are the MLS teams in New York truly making an impact? I mean, it's something that we've been covering through the length of and breadth of this show, is the ability for these teams to actually gain attention, and every transfer window, when there isn't a known quantity brought in by either side, frankly, at this point in their life cycle, seems to only lead towards more anonymity. And I'm just kind of curious of where you see the state of New York soccer. The USL is about to launch a club in your borough out on out at Coney Island with the women's team next week, and then the men's team coming in the fall. I'm just kind of curious what the view from Brooklyn is from you.
So there's a few things to unpack here, Mark, but I think ultimately right now, I think Major League Soccer has such an interesting conundrum, in the sense that it really is the only sport in this country that competes with itself, in the sense of football's the global sport. And so not only is Major League Soccer competing with the NBA and MLB and NFL and what have you, it has to compete with the Premier League. It has to compete with the Bundesliga, La Liga, and whatever else is on offer. Here in New York, that is as obvious as any other place I've seen in this country. You see Red Bull New York shirts, you see NYCFC shirts for sure. I live in Park Slope, and there's a lot of immigration here. There's a lot of young families here as well. So soccer is absolutely on the mindset here. But it's interesting because, like I said, whilst you see the jerseys and the car stickers and the scarves of both New York teams, you also see soccer shirts from all over the place. Like the other day, I was having a cup of coffee in Park Slope, and some guy walked past me in a New Mexico United shirt. And I was like, Well, that's. I mean, you do you, but that's not what I expected to see here.
Right.
But I love how football absolutely is at centre stage here in New York. Whether or not Red Bull and NYCFC are, as I said, that's perhaps another debate for another time. But I think they are a part of the conversation for sure. I've actually started taking some notes, actually, Mark, and I've started ticking off every time I see certain football shirts around New York. So some of the most popular ones that I've seen, actually, I'll just get the notes up here.
Yes.
Some of the most popular ones that I've seen over the course of this is only the last sort of week, really, because I've not been in New York a lot over the last couple of weeks because I've been traveling and terribly busy with other projects and what have you. But the most popular football shirt I have seen over the course of the last week to 10 days, unsurprisingly, really, is Club America.
That's not
I've
a
seen
surprise.
a lot of America.
Yep.
I've seen plenty of Palmeiras. I've seen Flamengo. I've seen Manchester City, Manchester United, Barcelona. Tons of the Messi jerseys, as we are becoming to expect, and not at all a surprise anymore, is it really?
No.
What else have I seen? As I mentioned, New Mexico United, that caught me off guard. Portland Timbers, which I thought was interesting as well. But the point here, Mark, is that I think New York really is a footballing hotbed, and there is such a want and a lust for the game here. But much like in a lot of the other markets, it just competes with a lot of other things. And let's not forget as well, in my opinion, Mark, we live in perhaps the best city in the world.
Yes.
There's other things to do.
Yes.
Broadway up the road, there's other things to do as well. So I think that's a unique thing that both Red Bull and NYCFC have got to compete with as well. With all due respect, that there's a lot of markets elsewhere that haven't got that distraction for the fans. So, but look, I think there's major relevance here. Just before the Red Bull Charlotte playoff game that we did last year, where Elias Manuel scored that first career hat-trick in the postseason, I dropped my daughter off to daycare in the morning. And I saw a whole host of people wearing all sorts of Red Bull stuff. Load of kids that were getting dropped off to school. There were parents that had stuff on. And I don't know if they were a part of some soccer group or something. I have no idea.
Right.
They were all talking about the game. And, that's got to be a positive, right? So I think Brooklyn is a big soccer hotbed for sure.
Awesome. Cal Williams calls Red Bull and all MLS season pass games all year long. And MLS season pass, you'll be calling the New York Derby in late September, which will be great. And we'll have you at Red Bull Arena for Decision Day. Thanks so much for chatting for a little bit. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Mark. Thanks so much. And see you at the stadium at some stage.
All right. We've got more Seeing Red coming up after this short break. Keep it here. Back on Seeing Red, the New York Soccer Roundup. Red Bull's getting ready to head to Charlotte for what may be the last time, the first and only time this season. These teams obviously could meet in the playoffs down the road, but nevertheless, we want to let you know, as we always do, that it's perfectly acceptable to send us an email at seeingredny@gmail.com. And if we pick your email and read it online, you get a banner like this on our YouTube channel. And here's Tom Malone. Hey, Mark and Dan, now the majority of the season is behind us. I got to thinking about the player that I was most pleased with this year. Of course, the usual names rolled around in my head: Lewis Morgan, Emil Forsberg, Carlos Coronel. They have played about as well as I expected them to. I started shifting my thoughts who stood out the most or what the most surprising was, and I settled on two names. The first is Noah Ayla. When I heard we picked up a Swedish defender in the transfer market, I really didn't expect much, except for a body to fill in on the bench. It turns out that he's been basically a rotational starter. I was impressed with his composure on the ball, and he's got a really decent passing ability. I always get a little extra sense of joy when a central defender scores a goal, and he nearly laced one a few weeks ago. The second name is Dylan Nealis. Last season, I was a little unsure every time he was listed in the starting lineup. I feel like he was a liability and didn't add much to the team. I was not as big a supporter, if I'm being honest, but this year he's improved massively and adds to the team both on offense and defense. I feel confident with him in the starting lineup and feel disappointed if he's not on it each week. What about you? Who do you think the player or players are that have surprised you the most? Appreciate all you do to make such a fantastic podcast, and can't wait to hear from Joe Goldstein again. That's Tom Malone. Thanks, Tom. Yeah, we certainly would love to hear from Joe as well. Dan, what are your thoughts? Who in your mind is kind of a player that has showed you they've stepped up and kind of made it go?
Well, I'll stick on his first guy, Noah Ayla. Has definitely surprised me that he stepped into the starting role like quite early into his Red Bull career. I mean, for a guy that was on loan from Malmo in the Swedish first division for the past 2 years, there are some good clips that you would see with his ability with the ball at his feet, his passing. But it was always a question of could he take that and put that into playing at Red Bull. And other than a couple of missteps here and there, an own goal, a red card, I think he's kind of stepped in pretty well for a 21-year-old center back. Playing in a high octane league like MLS. Defending isn't always the best quality of the league. So for Red Bull to find this kid out there in Sweden and kind of start building him up into a potential Swedish first team or senior international in the future, I think that's great scouting from them, and shout out to Sandro and the rest of the coaching staff for helping him get in.
Yeah, and the confidence he's built as well.
Oh yeah, exactly. With what he said, that he almost scored a goal his last game. I mean, when he took that shot, I thought it was going in, but just over the bar. I think he's got all the confidence in the world to do whatever he can with the ball at his feet. So that was a good one. And then I'd say my other one is probably Cam Harper before he got injured. Not surprised per se, but it was good to see him starting to play consistently. I think that's been his whole problem is he would have some good performances and then fall back off and then come back again with some performances and then fall back off. But before he got injured, I mean, he's putting consistent performances back to back when Forsberg went down with his foot injury. And I think he was starting to be in that time period, he was probably one of the best Red Bulls on the field. So hopefully when he comes back, whenever that is from his hamstring, hopefully it's this first game coming up against Charlotte. I think Red Bull could use a guy like him with his dribbling and his pace and his goals that they kind of desperately need. So those two guys probably are the guys that stand out to the most to me.
Yeah, Harper scored in 3 straight games for New York, including the phenomenal laser against NYC. Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's no arguments to be made here. If I'm trying to pick, I'm trying to scan the lineup here. I mean, Manuel is second on the team in goals, right? With 6 goals and 4 assists. He's not consistent enough. I think he understands that. But one thing this kid really wants to do is win. He was visibly upset when the team got bounced against Pachuca. Not just because they went on penalties, because I really think that he is all in emotionally on this team. And, for a player, for an MLS starter, you can make the argument that 6 goals is not enough to be playing every week. But, if he can find 5 or 6 more goals down the stretch and get hot like he did last year, I would move him into this category. Maybe because just the expectations, I think, are a little bit lower for him. But all the players that both you and Tom said, Dan, I think are absolutely right. I think that Daniel Edelman's had a tremendous season as well. You're not seeing it on the score sheet, and he's a guy that continues to throw himself out there and make himself a punching bag every single week, but he wins balls and he earns free kicks.
Yep.
And 24 appearances in 25 games, he's doing everything. I'm just quickly searching the team by minutes. Yeah, I mean, it's still, if you search by minutes, it's Dylan Nealis has the most minutes in the team this year. Daniel Edelman, Sean Nealis, Noah Ayla, and then Lewis and Carlos. So I would think I would put Edelman up there as well. But a great question, Tom. Thank you so much. And thanks for writing. Here's Matt Dykehouse, who says, "Hey, Mark, Joe, and Dan, I appreciate your recap and analysis of the transfer window It's a frustrating situation, but it's the same old with this team. I'm just numb to it at this point. There's no point getting worked up anymore because it just is what it is. What's frustrating is that the Red Bulls are playing money ball, but they just won't come out and say it. Instead, they talk about major investment, and we get Forsberg and a replacement midfielder. Now, I am happy about Forsberg, says Matt, but the only way this season can be seen as a major investment is if you compare it to the Red Bulls' own history. It's not major when compared to the rest of the league. Unfortunately, we're not competing with ourselves for MLS Cup, so we have to invest at a level commensurate with everyone else. So the club should just acknowledge that they have to operate in a different way because of their ownership situation or whatever the reason, and then acknowledge it means we can't compete for a trophy. Then we can just all get on with supporting the team in our lives and stop banging our heads against the wall hoping for more. Thanks as always, Matt Dykhouse. Our friend Matt Doyle on MLS soccernet.net went out there and said that the Red Bulls got a D for their summer transfer window because they didn't bring in any attacking talent, and their biggest they got turned down at the altar by a 20-year-old player in the Polish second division, and that's not an insult to the Polish second division or to the player, but it's like if this is where the bar is, something is wrong. What do you think?
I mean, not getting in a striker, yeah, it's tough, but I'll say this: they tried. I'll say they tried getting in a striker. There was multiple guys that they tried to get in, and you know what? At the end of the day, sometimes just things don't work out. Teams want more money than you're willing to go. Players will decline to go, and then we saw with Victor. I don't even know how to pronounce his last name. Bogusz.
Yes,
but I mean everything was done. I mean he took his medical. The contract was agreed upon. Everything. They just needed him to sign the contract, and then for whatever reason, after his medical, he just came to his senses and said, you know what, maybe it's not time to make the move. And you know what, that sucks at the end of the day, because now you've wasted all your time basically trying to sign this kid who you thought was going to come here, but at the end of the day he says no. So I'll give him some slack there that they tried, but yeah, again, as for a team that's lacked striker for or a pure goal scoring striker for the last couple of years, you've had plenty of time to find that replacement option to come into the starting 11. But at the end of the day, it didn't happen. So I'll take Carballo. That was a good deal to get over. But I can understand why fans and other media people are frustrated with the team, because it's always the same thing at the end of the day. Red Bull not getting it done in the transfer window, especially in the summer one, because we remember what happened last year. They just brought in two guys that aren't even with the team anymore. So I understand everything that's coming Red Bull's way, and a D is probably that's probably what they deserve at the end of the day.
Well, there was a question on social media today that talked about being accountable. Like how can we hold the front office to account? And there was a talk about the press availability tomorrow, and how someone said that the statements about spending should be read back to the executives, and the executives aren't going to be there tomorrow.
Nope.
The executives should hopefully be made available so those questions can be asked to them. But the idea of holding them accountable, right? They're accountable to their bosses.
Yep.
They're accountable to management. And if the team doesn't get it done, and if the team crashes out, and if the team doesn't win MLS, like, you as a customer have the ability to say, I've had enough, thank you very much, right? There's nothing inherently wrong, nor is it unique to this club in pro sports, where an owner either doesn't get it right or is unwilling to spend. We just unfortunately can remember in our fading memories Thierry Henry playing for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And we can remember a team of veterans going out and winning the Supporters' Shield 3 times in 6 years. And this team is having a very good season. Their 4 losses in 25 matches is very, very impressive. But as we've talked about for weeks here, no one would confuse them with a cup contender.
No.
And so if we're simply marching toward another first round playoff defeat, which would be the 5th straight, I believe, or 6th straight, I think it's okay to write an angry email and to tell this team on the socials, although it's, the social team probably gets a little tired of it, but write an email to these guys and tell them that, they're not getting the job done. We shouldn't project, however, the idea that they're not going to do anything in the playoffs, because
they're going to try to win.
Of course they're going to try to win. And it may be that this year they get the balance that has eluded them for 27 years, 28 years. So, I don't believe it's a foregone conclusion. And if Carballo can come in here and make a difference, and maybe some of the forwards that currently exist on the team can figure out how to get out of their own heads enough to actually convert the chances that are being created, they can be in that upper echelon, or at the very least they can give someone a challenge and make a deep playoff run. But that is a discussion for another time, because we've come to an end of episode 584 of Seeing Red. Joe, we miss you. Thank you so much for watching. We'd certainly like to thank Zach Feldman for stats. Excuse me. We'd like to thank Callum Williams for stopping by for the first time. Dan, you call Saturday's match 7:30 at Charlotte A.
2-2 draw.
I'm going to call it a 2-1 win. And the best news is we will be back next week to recap and have more Seeing Red. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. Have a great